Hey y'all, it's Katie. Welcome back to From My Vanity. Today I am super excited to be filming this video because it is the Norvina palette review. I have had this palette for about a week at this point, but I am just now getting to film. My life has been kind of crazy. If you follow me on Snapchat, you know all about it, but this is the first day that I'm actually able to sit down and film. So I know I'm a little late to getting my review up. A lot of people already have their review up, but the bonus of that is I've worn this palette 5 days, 6 days. I've had a good chance to play around with the shades. I've had a good chance to see how they last throughout the day under different circumstances, from just sitting around in the house all day to going out to the pool to going out and running errands. So I have put this palette to the test and I want to share my thoughts with you guys. I have been hearing this getting mixed reviews just from some makeup groups that I'm in. We're going to dive into my thoughts on it, the pros, the cons, all that stuff. If you guys are new to my channel or new to how I do reviews here on my channel, if you didn't know, I have a blog and I do the big, kind of like the big chunk of my review on my blog. I kind of dissect it and go through a bunch of points and just break it down on my blog. But on my YouTube channel, I do swatches on the eye, swatches on the arm. I do a tutorial and then I kind of give you my overall thoughts and feelings. So depending on what you're looking for, you can just kind of jump around and get what you need. If you want to just see eye swatches, keep on watching. They're coming up next. Or if you want to get the full in-depth review, I will have the link to my blog post down below so you can read all about it and decide for yourself. So yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say before we get into it. I am going to do a little bit of a first impressions and just give you guys a little bit of information before we jump into swatches, so let's go ahead and do that now. I know this is really random, but I did want to mention that I was very impressed with the way Anastasia packaged this palette. Now, I purchased the Subculture from Anastasia, what was it, last year, and I purchased it from the website and it came in a box. It was very nicely packaged, but it was that kind of like the little wormy thingies. I don't even know what they're called, but they're just long little pieces of paper, and it had a lot of wormy thingies in there, so I wasn't too worried about it. But for this palette, the Norvina palette, I was pretty impressed that they had this type of just foamy material and it was in here really snug. This folded in and it wasn't going anywhere. So I was pretty impressed on that kind of upscale to their packaging and their shipping. I'm not someone who keeps the outer packaging, but this is the outer packaging for the Norvina palette. It has all the information, the ingredient list. If you are curious, yeah, that's the outer packaging. The real star of the show is the actual palette, and it is gorgeous. I love the outside packaging. I know a lot of people don't really care for the carpet feel of it or just the fact that it gets dirty easily. I don't really care either way. I feel like a lot of my makeup gets dirty, and to me that just kind of means that I love it that much more. I like the color. I don't mind the feel, like it doesn't bother me. Now I know the packaging is purple, but I don't remember reading ever from like Anastasia Beverly Hills herself that this was meant to be a purple palette, even though I know the packaging is purple, it makes you think purple. But people were kind of complaining about this palette not being purple when it was promoted as a purple palette. To me, I just see this as a very cool tone, purple leaning palette, more of a neutral palette. And from what I heard, now I follow Norvina on Twitter and on Instagram, but I don't see all her posts on Instagram thanks to their awesome algorithm, and I'm not always on, you know, catching up with all Norvina's tweets, so I might have missed it. But from what I had read from her, it's just supposed to be like her palette and kind of her colors and her tones and what she likes to wear, which I feel like this is a gorgeous palette. No, it is not a purple palette. I feel like I've been seeing a ton of videos on what this palette, like what the Norvina palette should have been, and it's just all purples. And I mean, I understand people wanting a purple palette, but I do really like this palette that it has some purple, but it still has those neutrals. And it's just, I think the focus of this palette was more on the cool tone side rather than just like the purple side, if that makes sense. Another thing I wanted to touch on real quick is that at least I was hearing, now I should have, before this video started, I should have gone on their website to check, but everyone was saying that the top row was all shimmers or metallic and the bottom row was all mattes. That is not the case. The top is all metallic type of finishes, but the bottom, let's see, it's Love, Soul, and Base that has a satin finish to it. There is some sparkle. It does not behave like a true matte. So keep that in mind, because when I got my palette, that bummed me. One other thing to note is that Wild Child and even Dreamer a little bit is more of an eyeshadow topper. They just shine best when they have some kind of color underneath to help it. They are stunning. They just need a little bit of color underneath to really make that shine and that metallicness of it stand out. So at this time, let's go ahead and jump into the swatches. We're gonna first start with arm swatches and then dive into eye swatches. Per usual, I'm just gonna be playing music over this. I do arm swatches with my finger, no primer or anything on my arm, and then when I go to eye swatches, I'm going to be using nothing, no primer underneath the shadows on my lid. I just set my lid with a little bit of translucent setting powder just to make sure there's no oils or stickiness or like makeup remover gonna funk up the shadow. And then I go ahead and take a $1 e.l.f. brush, which I can stick pictures here. I take this brush and I use this for all the shimmers in the palette and apply it. And then for the mattes, I use the Sonia Kashuk number 28 brush. I'm still trying to find a dupe because I don't think that brush is available any longer, but it is my favorite for matte, so we're sticking to it until I can find a replacement. In between that, I'm going to be using the Ulta Beauty. It's called a New Hue Shadow Switching Pan. I'm going to use that to clean off my brush, and I have some makeup remover to clean off the swatches from my eyes. So yeah, I think that's the spiel. Let's just go ahead and jump right into the swatches. Alright, so there you go. Those are the swatches. I can't wait to hear what you guys think about them, and I have taken polls in previous videos if you guys like me to use eyeshadow primer or some type of base, and for the majority of the people who vote in that, they say don't use anything, so I am going to continue not using anything. So with that in mind, do keep in mind as you're watching those swatches that this is how they look with no help at all, and I feel like in this day and age pretty much everyone uses some type of either eye primer or concealer or something underneath the shadow, which helps intensifies it even more. So keep that in mind. Yeah, those were the swatches, so I hope that was helpful to you. Let's just keep the ball rolling and jump right into the makeup look. I didn't do this look. I did film this look, but it didn't turn out very well because it's so cloudy here that it was so overcast, the quality wasn't that good, so I went ahead and filmed another day. So we're going to be doing that look. I hope you guys are okay with that. If you really do want to see this look, let me know and I can upload it to Instagram just so you guys can at least see the colors and the placement that I used. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into the eye look that I did for this review video. Alright, so after priming my eyes, I'm just taking that eccentric shade and I'm putting that into my crease. I know it looks like it was already there, but I forgot to record at the beginning, so that's why that is already done. But going on with Soul, I am taking that into my outer corner and bringing it up into my crease. I know I spent a lot of time here. It's a really pretty shade, but to get it to the depth that I wanted, you really have to kind of build it up. So that's what I'm doing here, just taking my time building it up and trying to blend it into that eccentric shade to make it like seamless. And then I'm going on with Love and I'm just packing that onto my lid just to give it the color base that I wanted. And then once that is all set, I'm taking the NBA Cosmetics Glitter Foil Liquid, I forget the exact name, but I'm patting that onto my lid and then taking Wild Child and packing that on, really. I know the step before Love seems a little unnecessary, but I feel like it helps make it a little more pigmented and just help that color, that pink, really stand out. Then I'm taking Base and I'm putting that for my brow bone highlight just to clean up where I had put Eccentric, it got a little messy. And then I'm taking CoverGirl, and at this point you guys can see my daughter wanted to brush my hair, so I very quickly did my liner and then I let her start brushing my hair, and then I'm just lining my waterline with a black from Smashbox, and then taking Soul again, I'm taking that underneath my lower lash line and just smoking that out and cleaning it up with my finger. And then taking Dreamer, I really love this as an inner corner highlight. It is so pretty. I know it doesn't look like much in the swatches, but packed on your inner corner, it is blinding. And then, yeah, just mascara. I didn't really show that because that's kind of boring. But after mascara, we are all done, and that is the completed look. I know my foundation does not match my neck, but summer problems, I'm having a really hard time finding foundations that match my neck or deepening it up enough, and this day I was trying a new foundation, so it was a new mix and I got it wrong, obviously. But besides that, just enjoy the look and thanks so much for watching. Alright, so there you have it. That is the look that I created. I had a lot of fun creating looks with this palette. I feel like I had a lot of fun and unique palettes. They all were pretty darn cool tone, and they had some kind of purple pinky vibe to it, which was very different for me, but kind of made me feel like Norvina. And I'll go ahead and start sticking them in here so you guys can see all the looks that I did create with them. As I always say, I upload them on my Snapchat, so the quality isn't great. It's just my front-facing camera on my phone, but at least you guys get to see the different types of looks that I did create with this palette. And now is time to get into my overall thoughts on this palette. Now, as I already said, if you want to hear in depth about my thoughts on this palette and just hear me expound on what I'm about to say, please go check out my blog. I go into a lot more detail, but to save time and because I have so much already in this video with the swatches and the tutorial, I'm going to keep this kind of short and concise, but overall I like this palette and overall I recommend this palette. A couple of things that really stood out to me with this palette is that I have to use a glitter glue when I'm using the metallics, because if not, it falls on my face throughout the day. Whenever I went to the bathroom, I'd check the mirror and I'd have to wipe away the fallout, which sometimes when I use this shade was pretty darn noticeable. So that is a little bit of a kind of a bummer, but at the same time I kind of understand why it's happening, because these metallics are so extremely soft. They swatch incredibly, but being that soft, it does tend to chunk off throughout the day and fall on your face. So definitely keep that in mind, and if you are not someone who wants to bother with a glitter glue, I don't think you will be happy with this palette. Another thing that I noticed is that the looks I get don't last that long throughout the day. I feel like Subculture, I noticed the same thing that I noticed with this, is that they are very pretty looks, but after a couple hours, they start to fade. Nothing crazy. I don't see any creasing. I don't see any major fading, but when I sit down and do my makeup and leave, and then when I take my makeup off at the end of the day, I can tell a difference. And like I already said, I think I noticed that with Subculture, so I think it's just Anastasia Beverly Hills just shadow formula. Something about it doesn't last that long, at least on my eyelids. Maybe other people are different, but for me, that's something I noticed so far with 2 out of the 3, and honestly maybe even the Modern Renaissance, but it's been so long since I've tried the Modern Renaissance, I can't remember. But overall, I do really like this palette, and if you like the colors in here, I don't think you'll be disappointed with the looks you can create. As long as you're not buying this thinking you're getting a purple palette, I think you'll be really happy. If you're buying this wanting a cool tone palette, you're gonna love the looks you create with this. They are extremely soft though, as I feel like Anastasia Beverly Hills eyeshadow formula always is. I mean, there's gonna be powder cook-up. You're gonna have powder on your face and not just a little bit of powder that you can wipe away. Like every time I use this, I had to go in like with a baby wipe. I use baby wipes because I have them on hand more so than I have makeup wipes. But I had to go wipe my face and basically clean my whole face and re-moisturize because the shadow was just so intense on my face and I couldn't put foundation over that. So definitely something to keep in mind, and if that's a bother to you, you're not gonna like this palette because you can, I don't think you can ever get a look out of this and not make a mess on your face. But yeah, overall, I can really recommend this. Now, this wasn't a palette that I saw and I was just like falling in love with, kind of like the Gemini palette. Now, the Melt Gemini palette, that's just, I've told you guys so many times, that's me in a palette. So I like that. I like that palette so much because the colors are me. This palette, the colors aren't me. I enjoy it, and I thought the colors I got from it were very pretty, but they're not Katie. So at this point, I feel like I'm just rambling, but if you want to hear more of my thoughts on the Norvina palette, please do check out my review down below. I kind of break it down, and then I give an overall thought at the end, but you get my overall thoughts here because I do recommend it. So there you have it. Those are the swatches, the tutorial, and my review of the new Anastasia Beverly Hills Norvina palette. Let me know, are you going to get the Norvina palette from ABH? I'm very curious. I feel like Anastasia Beverly Hills like palette releases are so heavily critiqued, and honestly I feel a little sorry for them because they are so intensely critiqued, and I feel like people just pick her palettes apart, and maybe because of the so culture all future palettes are going to be like that, but part of me is just like, it's makeup, it's an eyeshadow palette, and I have yet to find an eyeshadow palette that is so amazing there's not one con to it, if that makes sense. Like, yes, I know I pointed out some cons to it, but any palette, even the palettes that I absolutely love, have cons to it, like the Gemini palette. The greens aren't the easiest to work with, and there's just little cons about it, but overall I do like it, and I can get it to work. So I know I'm going on a little tangent here. All that to say, I think this is a really nice palette. I didn't have any major problems with it. Yeah, overall, I really liked it, and I can say I recommend it. So if you like the colors in this palette, I say go for it. If you don't like the colors, you probably don't need this review to tell you not to get it. But yeah, that about wraps up this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Bye, guys.